the actual PowerPoint application at this time. So sorry for the inconvenience. Okay. So you guys can all see it just fine. Great.
Yes.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Hammitt, and I'm excited and also nervous. I'm to share my dissertation proposal with you all today. So the title of my research is Finding Bad Thematic Insights into Air Force Cyber Protection Teams and Private Sector Security Practices. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge and thank my committee for their guidance and support throughout this process. Dr. Donna, Dr. Taba, and Dr. James, I really appreciate the time that you guys have set aside after the holidays like this. Again, I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to working with you all here in the near future as well. So this research explores the differences, strengths, and collaboration opportunities between Air Force cyber protection teams, also known as CPTs, and private sector security practices. And we're going to begin by looking at what exactly we are going to be covering today. So this is an outline of what we're going to be covering during this presentation. I'm going to begin with the introduction and problem statement to give you an understanding of why exactly this research is important. And next, we are going to be discussing the study's significance, the research questions that guide this work. After that, I'm going to be sharing some key findings from the literature review before diving into the methodology, population, and sampling approaches. After that, I'm going to outline the data collection as well as analysis plans and also address the ethical considerations for research. And lastly, I'll be wrapping up with the conclusions and contributions of this study. So let's go ahead and get started. So cybersecurity, especially in the news, it's one of the most pressing challenges we currently have in our current environment. It's critical to national defense, and it's also critical to maintaining the stability of businesses and society. And despite the shared risks that are currently faced by both the public and private sectors, these two groups often operate in silos. So advanced persistent threats, also known as APTs, they target both military and civilian systems, and most of the time without discrimination. Whether it's a private corporation or even just a military network, adversaries often just exploit vulnerabilities wherever they can find them. On the military side, especially with the Air Force CPTs are a mission-driven. They're mission-driven, and they operate under a structured doctrinal framework and approach. In contrast, private sector organizations prioritize agility, innovation, and also profitability, and they often navigate these complex challenges under the guise of compliance as well as resource constraints. So this research focuses on exploring the differences between these two approaches and identifying opportunities for collaboration. The ultimate goal is to find ways to strengthen national cybersecurity by combining the strengths of both sectors. So the problem this research tackles is the lack of effective collaboration between the public and private sectors in cybersecurity. As I mentioned earlier, APTs target both military and civilian systems indiscriminately. Siloed approach where the public and private sectors work independently is not a sufficient option to address the threats as they currently happen. So the military has strengths in structured military critical operations, while private companies excel in the adaptability as well as rapid innovation. However, these strengths are not shared or leveraged effectively between the sectors. This lack of collaboration creates a gap in our national cybersecurity defenses. What this study hopes to accomplish is bridge that gap by exploring how public and private sectors can learn from one another. It's ultimately about identifying shared strategies, best practices, and also opportunities to work together more effectively in order to combat cyber threats. So I believe this research is significant for several reasons. First, it identifies and addresses a clear gap in existing literature. Most research tends to focus exclusively on the private sector or the public sector, and there's very little that compares the operational strategies or explores how they can collaborate. Second, this research aligns directly with the U.S. national cybersecurity strategy. One of the key pillars of this strategy is fostering public-private partnerships in order to defend critical infrastructure. This study supports that goal by identifying actionable steps for collaboration. Third, the findings have potentially have practical applications. For example, the resorts could potentially inform policy recommendation, maybe enhance cybersecurity training programs, and also help create a more unified national defense framework. Finally, this research aims to contribute to the broader academic understanding of cybersecurity by providing a foundation for future studies exploring public-private collaboration. So the central research question guiding this study is, what are the core cyber defense strategies utilized by Air Force CPTs, and how do they compare to those in the private sector? To answer this, I've outlined several supporting questions. One, how is success defined in cybersecurity by each sector? What strategies and tactics are most effective in the respective environments? What challenges and barriers exist in implementing and sustaining these strategies? And how do public and private sectors approach training for cybersecurity professionals? I believe these questions aim to uncover the operational differences, the challenges, and also the opportunities for collaboration between the two sides, the two sectors. So this literature review provided the foundation for the research methodology. When we look at existing research, there are several important themes that emerge that frame the foundation of the study. First, cybersecurity has definitely come a long way since the early 80s. Early efforts focused more on basic antivirus programs and firewalls, but today's landscape requires more sophisticated tools and techniques, such as the MITRE ATT&CK framework and the cyber kill chain. These frameworks don't just react to threats, they're proactive in nature. They help organizations map out and disrupt attacks at every stage. Now, while these tools are widely used, their application varies significantly between the public and private sectors. Second, one of the biggest challenges highlighted in the literature review is that cyber threats, especially APTs, they don't discriminate. Military networks and private sector infrastructure are equally at risk, and adversaries often target both. This makes it clear that collaboration between the sectors isn't just nice to have, it's necessary. And the issue is collaboration isn't always easy. The military, including Air Force cyber protection teams, operate within a highly structured and mission-critical environment. On the other hand, private companies focus more on innovation and adaptability. They often work within tight budgets, navigating complex regulations. Both sectors do. But these differences in priorities and constraints create barriers to effective knowledge sharing and partnerships. The literature review also revealed a significant gap in research. While there's plenty of focus on frameworks and strategies, there's very little on how the military and private sector can learn from each other, and especially in an operational sense. And this is where my study comes in. By comparing the strengths and strategies of both sectors, I aim to address this gap and uncover ways they can work together more effectively. Ultimately, the literature review highlighted both the challenges and opportunities of public-private collaboration in cyber. And by leveraging the unique strengths of each sector, there is a real chance to create a stronger or unified approach to defending against today's more sophisticated threats that are only constantly evolving and becoming more dangerous. So for my research methodology, this study is going to be using a qualitative approach grounded in pragmatism, and pragmatism focuses on real-world solutions and actionable insights, making it an ideal framework for this research. And this methodology is going to involve two phases. First is going to be the document analysis. I will be analyzing unclassified Air Force CPT publications and private sector frameworks like this cybersecurity framework in order to identify recurring themes. The second phase of the research, I will design a survey based on the themes identified, and it will be administered to Air Force CPT operators with private sector experience. This is a two-step approach that ensures the findings are both comprehensive and also grounded in practical realities. So the population for this study is carefully selected to ensure meaningful insights. So who is going to be surveyed? I will be focusing on senior Air Force Cyber Protection Team operators who also have private sector experience. And specifically, I'm going to be targeting CPT operators that are in the Air National Guard who are operators on a part-time basis and most of the time carry full-time careers in the private sector or has significant experience in the private sector. These individuals bring a unique perspective because they've worked in both highly structured military environments and also more flexible, innovation-driven private sector roles. Their dual experiences make them the perfect candidates to provide valuable insights into the differences, strengths, and challenges faced in each sector. And they are also uniquely equipped to identify opportunities for collaboration and also mutual learning between the two sectors. To achieve this, I am going to be using purposive sampling, which is a common approach in qualitative research. It will allow me to specifically target individuals who meet the criteria of having dual experience in Air Force CPTs as well as the private sector. By focusing on this group, I can ensure that the data collected is both relevant and also rich in detail. Although the sample size will be relatively small, I'm aiming between 10 and 15 individuals, hopefully, that can participate in the survey. It's going to be designed to provide deep qualitative insights rather than broad quantitative data. And this approach aligns perfectly with the goals of this study. So the data collection plan for this study is going to occur in two distinct phases. The first phase being thematic analysis. In this phase, I'm going to be analyzing documents for both Air Force CPTs and in the private sector. The goal is to identify recurring themes, strategies, and challenges. This step is going to lay the foundation for the second phase by ensuring that the survey questions are rooted in real-world insights. The second phase, survey administration. Using the themes identified in phase one, I will develop and administer surveys to senior Air Force CPT operators with private sector experience. The survey will explore firsthand experiences, perspectives on collaboration, and insights into the strengths and challenges of both sectors. I believe by structuring the study in this way, I can ensure that the data collected is both comprehensive and focused on addressing the central research questions. Sorry, that was for the data collection plan, my bad. So the data analysis for this study is going to follow a stepwise thematic approach. For step one, coding, I'm going to be using MaxQDA software to code the data and refine the themes iteratively. The software is specifically designed for qualitative research, and that's what makes it an excellent tool for organizing and also analyzing complex data. Step two is going to be validation. The themes identified during the coding process will be validated through the survey responses, and this is going to ensure that the findings are grounded in real-world experience of the participants. And step three, cross-sector comparison. I will compare the findings for both sectors to highlight where they align, where they differ, the goal to identify opportunities for collaboration, and also actionable insights that could strengthen cybersecurity practices across both sectors. This approach ensures that the analysis is thorough, reliable, and directly applicable to the practical challenges faced by both sectors. So ethical considerations, especially being qualitative in nature, are a top priority in this research. And here's how I've ensured that the study meets the highest ethical standards. So an exemption from the Marymount's IRB has been granted for this study. And I will be adhering to the guidelines that I proposed in the exemption application in order to ensure that my research is ethical, and also ensuring that all survey participants will remain anonymous and that their data will be handled with the utmost confidentiality. This also ensures that participants feel comfortable with sharing their honest insights. And also data integrity is incredibly important. In order to maintain the integrity of the survey data, I will be using SurveyMonkey, a trusted platform for securing and reliable data collection. By adhering to the ethical considerations, I can ensure that the research is both credible and respectful of the rights of anybody who decides to participate. So, in conclusion, this research explores how Air Force CPTs and private sector organizations can learn from one another to improve national cybersecurity. We've looked at the shared challenges both sectors face, the strengths they bring to the table, and the barriers to prevent effective collaboration. By bridging this gap, we have an opportunity to create stronger, more unified approach to defending against today's sophisticated cyber threats. This study has the potential to inform policies, improve training programs, and contributing to future research in the field of cybersecurity. I really thank you for your time and attention. I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have. For references, please refer to the proposal documentation. If you have any questions of specific sources, please do not hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Jonathan. I like the topic quite a bit. I have two questions for you, and that is, remind me about your survey. Is it open-ended questions or more yes or no or agree, disagree questions? I'm forgetting right now.
So I could definitely update the proposal to include more detail about that. I was leaning toward a mix between agree, disagree, but also open-ended questions, so I could get narrative format responses from operators, and that'll give me just more breadth and depth of understanding as to the thoughts of senior cyber operators.
Okay, so then I will suggest that you change your methodology to a sequential mixed method, because the document analysis portion is very obviously qualitative, but the survey is sounding to me like it's more on the quantitative side. So we can talk about what you'll need to do in your methodology chapter to make that clear. The second comment I wanted to make is, can you consider changing over to the Qualtrics platform rather than SurveyMonkey? Marymount has a subscription to Qualtrics, which all students are free to use. And we've had much more success, especially if we're trying to survey cyber professionals. Qualtrics is a more trusted platform than SurveyMonkey because it comes out with a Marymount link, you know, that people feel more assured that the research is, you know, approved by the university. And it's also better for analysis. It's a much more richer data analysis. So if you want to think about using Qualtrics, I would strongly recommend it, and I can put you in touch with the department that gives out those accounts.
Understood. I did have a question about the being a mixed methods approach. The reason why I was leaning more toward open questions, more open-ended questions, is because it was going to be a qualitative dive into those views of each individual operator and see where their opinions lie as far as what are some of the more important aspects of cybersecurity and being operational, like how do they use cyber threat intelligence in the private sector, and do you see for example, more operational aspects, on the military side? Is there anything that you do that you feel, the private sector would benefit from?
Yeah, I think once we get to the point where you're ready to develop the questions, we'll be able to determine whether it's qualitative or quantitative. If you go with all open-ended questions, that I can see that being more qualitative in nature. But if you do ask any of the scale type questions of agree to disagree, or yes, no, or ranges, like how much percentage of your time do you estimate is spent on XYZ activities, that would be more of a quantitative analysis. So once you get to questions, we can determine whether you're doing a sequential mixed method or a pure qualitative. Let me turn it over to Dr. Teba and Dr. Bain for their comments and questions.
Yeah, I do have maybe a couple of questions. So Jonathan, what criteria are you going to use to determine the relevance and reliability of private sector publications?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, ma'am?
Um, one second. I said, what criteria will you going to use to determine the reliability of the private sector publications?
Documentation for the private sector?
Yes.
So what I'm going to be doing is analyzing what public documentation are available for Air Force CPTs. I'm looking specifically for frameworks. So I know there's not going to be too much that is available for public release, but I believe there is enough. I'll give one example. So we have a guiding doctrine for CPT operators called AFPD 3-12. And it is just pretty much outlines the roles, responsibilities, the types of training, what certain roles in defensive cyber operations do, and equivalency would be something along the lines of the NIST cybersecurity framework. So a lot of the Air Force documentation and military documentation in general takes heavy influence from NIST standards, and so does the private sector. So I'll be doing just selection based on mostly NIST documentation.
Cool. So did you think about the steps that you're gonna take to recruit the diverse participant pool that represent all level of experience?
Yes. So I'm a CPT cyber warfare operator myself. Talking with Dr. Bain over the last few weeks, on the military side, there's issues with using military networks or reached out to the military email. So I'm going to use my own personal professional contacts for these operators. And I also know the stipulations. There's documentation that outlines what exactly a senior site CPT operator is. There's a specific training. There's a specific career field that they have to be a part of. So between those two things, the only people that are going to be able to participate in the survey are senior Air Force designated senior cyber warfare operators, and that doesn't delineate between military leaders or enlisted. So it's going to include officers as well as enlisted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Marymount, Dr. Bain. Questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's a good time. First of all, congrats on the IRB exemption. That's always a question that you might have, right? That you want to.
Thank you.
Second, so I think more and shared understanding of these type of practices for cybersecurity is always good. So I think your topic is on point. I think it's a good contribution. I like the idea of qualitative. My heart is in qualitative studies, and I heard you say 10 to 15 participants, which can be a lot of qualitative survey answers to go through, especially if they're all open-ended. And I remember in your proposal, you had said that you weren't going to do codes and themes on those responses. And I think, I think I just, with that many participants and that many qualitative responses, I guess I'm curious how you anticipate analyzing the responses and then comparing those to your document analyses. And I would just strongly urge, my bias would be using something like MaxQDA for the responses to help just mesh all that together, and give your brain a break and prove those relationships. So what are your thoughts on that?
I've definitely taken that into consideration. One of the issues is just with the short timetable. I'm more willing to shorten my sample size. If you see an issue with, 10, I thought 10 to 15 would be, pretty small, but if 10 to 15 participants is, a huge ask, then I am willing to definitely shrink that pool. But when I was designing this study, especially with Dr. Vargas, we both agreed that having a phased approach, identifying themes from the documentation, allows me to really just sort of based on the identified themes between the public and private sector, gaining the insights of what the CPT operators' experiences are based on, what I find in the initial document analysis, and just really tapping into that experience. My idea was Max QDA is going to identify a lot of critical important subjects along the lines of cyber threat intelligence, operational approaches dealing with the APT activity. And I really feel as if learning what those themes are, and then basing my survey on that gives me a way to not only move through IT 840 by first doing the document analysis and then informing the survey over a small period of time, rather than waiting on the survey results to conduct the study, was a more just a way for me to move forward, but also approach it in a way that I feel might be a little bit more valuable.
If I can jump in there and say that if you intend to do qualitative analysis on the surveys, you've been finding, and most of the articles on the subject look for about 20 responses to reach saturation, where you're not really learning anything new from the responses. But so 12 would be a low number for a qualitative analysis. I don't know that you could reach the whole scope. That's why I was thinking it was more quantitative. But
Understood.
we can just, I think the key is going to be getting your survey questions formed so that we'll have a better understanding of what kind of analysis you'll be doing.
Understood.
What's most appropriate.
Yes, ma'am.
Taba, Dr. Bain, other questions or comments?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, I've opened up breakout rooms for Dr. Bain and Dr. Taba and me. Dr. Bain, I assume you know Zoom well enough to join a breakout room. So we three will go there and discuss what the next steps should be. Jonathan, entertain your observers, and we'll be back
Will do.
quick as we can.
Understood. Thank you. So how y'all doing?
A great presentation.
Thank you.
When did you submit your proposal?
I submitted my proposal at the end of 8:30, so like beginning of December. But I mean, I've had this same topic since the beginning. This is what I wanted to work on.
Oh,
Some things have changed, like Max QDA or the surveys. Little aspects have changed, but I definitely wanted to take a look at Air Force cyber protection teams and the civilian sector, sort of capture that.
I see. Yeah, one of the difficulties that I have is to find the candidates for the survey. And I realized that you mentioned that you use your own networking and your colleagues for doing that, right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm not mentioning units or anything. I'm keeping it out of the study, but I'm part of Air National Guard CPT. So I have a sample. I have people there, and then I also have other Guard CPTs that I can reach out to.
Right.
So I could easily hit 15, 20, 30.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you do have the flexibility to increase them, as Dr. Donna suggested.
Well, we'll see. See, I thought the survey was really just going to be more exploratory to confirm experiences on the themes. I'm really more concerned about the experiences on the main qualitative analysis is going to be through the thematic analysis, and I have over 200 pages of analysis that I need to go through between the private and public sector. Right. So I think that meets the initial threshold for qualitative analysis, and I guess the surveys are going to be more used for exploratory, just sort of capturing what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, just going to the word Ms. Ham said about challenges in getting participants. I'm currently in the data collection phase. I did my presentation right before the holidays. And so far, I mean, when I presented, one of my committee members, because my target was to get about 30 participants, but my committee member said, like, that is so ambitious. Because from her experience, a lot of students have some challenges getting participants. So I'm currently at that phase right now.
Yeah, that's why I was a little, that's a major reason why I decided to go with this topic too, is because I already I know the people, I have a sample size. There's always like that question in the back of your head, am I going to get enough people if you're reaching out to, people that you've never met before?
Yeah, me, I mean, I'm just hoping that once I can get probably about 15 to 20 participants, then I should be able to reach my saturation. I mean, based on the trend I'm seeing right now, I should be able to hit saturation by around 15 to 17 participants. So
Okay, Jonathan, I think we're all coming back now. And
Right.
yes, so good job on the presentation, and the topic is one that we think is vitally important. As you could tell from our questions, we're all a little concerned about the amount of work you're undertaking. It seems like a very ambitious study with both the content analysis and then the follow-up survey to get people's opinions on what your content analysis reveals. So we approve you to move forward in 840 with this, but you and I will keep an eye on things and make sure the scope is not getting beyond us, and that you'll be able to do a good job with the analysis, and not be too rushed at the end where you can't pay attention to both parts of your proposal equally. So we got to have some good time management and some good communication. But other than that, you're good to go.
Awesome. I really appreciate you guys' time today. Those that watched, thank you all again. I appreciate it.
Congrats, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taba. Thank you, Dr. Jim.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch. And students, thank you for observing. And I'll stay on the line for a few minutes in case anybody wants to debrief.
Thank you.
Nasim, you'll be starting the process pretty soon yourself.
Yes, I do. So thank you so much. I actually wanted to ask you the question. This is the requirement for 840, right?
Yes,
Okay.
get into 840, yeah.
Get
You
into
just
it.
finished 830. Are you in 830?
I am in 830, yeah.
Okay, so whatever you submit to Dr. Liu for assignments, make sure you email me a copy as well, so I can keep posted on what you're doing, and then later on in the semester, we'll work on preparing your proposal.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Isaac, did you have any comments or questions for me?
Yeah, no, I just logged on. I was late.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see you another time then.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye-bye.